Alright everybody, and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a repair on the Department 56 Funhouse. Let's get into it! Okay, so in full transparency, I actually wasn't going to film this for a video. The reason was very simple. I couldn't find the exact motor to make the ultimate perfect easy repair for you guys, but instead of just tossing the whole video out the window, I thought I would still show you how I ended up getting this thing to work perfectly and how I was able to do it with a motor that was close enough. So with that said, just keep that in mind. If you can find the exact motor, and it's not the power of the motor that's the problem, it's the shaft size that is kind of the issue that I was having. But nonetheless, I got it to work beautifully, perfectly, still spins wonderfully, so everything is well. So for those of you that end up in the situation that I was in, I just wanted to show you a quick little idea on how I got around it and what the issue was. So with that said, let's take a closer look of what's happening. So if you look at the Funhouse, if you have one, you know already that the guy with the little wheel is not spinning. He does light up, but the light bulb is just not on at the moment. But nonetheless, he's supposed to spin. And that is kind of like the ultimate Funhouse thing, right? Like that whole spinning tunnel thing. So anyways, this was the issue, and I was stunned by how hard it was to find a motor that was even comparable. Usually for motor repairs, it's pretty relatively simple. You know, you can find the one, do the quick little wiring job, put it together, you're done. But in this case, the shaft size was huge. I think it was like 25 millimeters, maybe even bigger. I'm just kind of guesstimating. It was, I forget now, but it was somewhere in that area. And all the motors that were the right RPMs, you know, all that kind of stuff, did not have the right shaft size. Nor could I get one with the little screw, hole at the top. But that wasn't a big deal because I knew I could just glue the little piece on. But this is what we got. So let me show you how I did it. So just keeping again in mind, this was how I did it. If you could find the exact motor, then that is definitely the better way to go because it'll make your life a lot easier, but the result will be the same. All right, so to start this off, I'm just gonna kind of skim through it here just so you can get the idea. You're gonna basically flip the house over. There is 4 screws that you can take out either before or after, totally up to you. And then you're gonna wanna take a little knife and just kind of go around and loosen up some of that old glue. A hair dryer would be ideal to maybe start loosening that. Maybe a heat gun if you're ultra careful, but if you've never done it before, I would recommend a hair dryer or just a simple knife, butter knife like this would be great. Just be gentle, don't hurt yourself, and try not to break the unit. So once you have worked your way all the way around, it actually comes out relatively easily. And again, there's not much happening here. There's a power supply, a motor, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you know, other than the wires that go to the lighting and stuff, which we're not dealing with at all, it's really a pretty basic design. So that brings us to the problem. It wasn't spinning like I said earlier, and to diagnose that, if the motor is getting power, which in my case it was, you could totally take a voltmeter to it if you wanted to, but I've been doing it long enough to kind of know when a motor is bad. But to double check if you've never done this before, you could definitely take a voltmeter and see if the motor is getting power. And if it is, and it's still not functioning, there's something wrong with the motor. It could be that the motor's just dead. It could be that the gears are broken inside, and that's a hassle you don't want to screw with. So just replace it, even if that's the case. Unless, and again, that just applies for gears inside of the motor. You know, gears for a house that are, you know, on the main plate stuff, that's a whole different thing. That's no problem. But when it comes to replacing gears in a motor, it's just a real pain. So my advice would be just swap out the motor. Now, normally motors are really cheap, you know, maybe $5, something like that. But in this case, the motor was, aside from impossible to find, I was able to get this one, which is the same brand and almost identical. I mean, almost identical. The problem with this one was the shaft was a little too thick. So I was able to get pretty much almost the right shaft size. And just to be clear, this was the only motor that even had a shaft size close enough, but it was still too thick. So we'll get to how I got around that, but let's just take a look at how to tear down for now. So next, you're going to want to just pull off the little plastic guide around the tunnel, and it's part of those 4 screws underneath. Again, super simple, guys. This project is really, really simple. And then you're going to want to disconnect your wires. All the wires in this house go down to 2 little input wires. You'll see them right there on our left. Just unscrew the caps. Of course, make sure your unit is unplugged at all times. And anyway, you'll unscrew the caps, pull out the old wires. Very, very simple. And there is a couple screws on the motor as well. So you'll go ahead and pull those off. No problem. I'm not even going to show you all that because it's so simple. There is a small screw behind the character that you have to get to in order to get him off the old motor. Man, that is a little tricky. You got to have just the right screwdriver that can fit in there. I'm sure you could probably pop the character out without breaking it, but I was able to use a screwdriver and kind of did my best. But again, I wasn't too worried about breaking the back of it anyways, because I knew I was gonna have to glue it on no matter what. But it's something to be cautious of. And the screw, like I said, it's really small, but it does have to come out in order to get it off the original motor. Now to assemble, it's going to be real simple. You're just going to put it back right where the old one is, and you're going to see that I have hot glued it in, as well as I've hot glued on the tunnel piece as well. It does have like a little plastic slot that would fit technically over the old one, but in my case, because the shaft is too big, like too thick, it would not fit, so mine actually broke anyways, but you could just cut yours off or just cut it in half is probably ideal, and then just use the remaining half to glue it on. But no matter how it ends up, as long as you can glue it on, you're good to go. Real simple. I glued the motor on as well, and it doesn't really get hot or anything, so I'm not worried about it melting off the glue. And it spins really slowly, so there's not a lot of motion. And most importantly, there's actually a guide that we're gonna put back on that, again, just kind of keeps it right where you need it. Okay, so once you've glued it back in place and you've done your wiring, all you're gonna do is put on the little plastic guide. I've went ahead and added a little white grease just to kind of keep things lubricated, especially because I glued it on, so I didn't want any resistance of any kind. Real easy and works beautifully. Once you've done that, it's time just to put the house back together. Once you put it in, you're gonna wanna add some hot glue kind of around the base. I didn't show that because it's super easy, and I was trying to keep this video super short because, again, this isn't like our normal repair where I can say, hey, this is exactly what you need, this is what you do. You know, this is just kind of the workaround, I guess is what you would say, that I did to make this house work. So I just wanted to show you a couple clips. I know I'm not going super in depth here, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. Once you've done that, you're good to go. It's a super simple repair. So to review, you're gonna open up the house, disconnect the old motor, pull off the little guide, you know, those are those kind of 4 screws under there, pull off the old motor, put the new one back in, glue it together, in my case, unless you can find the right shaft size, and you're good to go. You put it together and it's gonna run forever. And as you can see, mine is running beautifully. It looks great. The light bulb is in. I replaced the light bulb as well. That's just a regular little classic lit light bulb. I'd love to do a review on this house too at some point, just because I've been, you know, such a fan of this house forever. When I grew up around Spooky Town with my grandparents, this was one of the houses that they mixed with it. Yes, I know it's Department 56, but they had a big Max collection, and this was one of the houses that they mixed in because he just thought it was so awesome, and I totally agree. So it brings back a lot of fun memories for me, and I'm super glad to see this house continue on. I now have 2 of them, and funny enough, they both seem to have the same issue. So now that I've solved it with this one, I'll probably end up doing the same thing to the other one, but I'm gonna give it some time till after this video comes out to see if anybody has any luck finding the other motor. But nonetheless, I've rambled on. This is a real short video just showing you again kind of some ideas of how I got around the issue of not being able to get the exact motor. It worked for me, it would work for you. Little hot glue goes a long ways, but hey, this is just how I did it. So nonetheless, thank you as always for continuing to support my channel, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.